where do you end? Where does that logic end? Though that's the thing. That's to bring something back and what the history. Now it's whatever that number is divided by the number of students. And then what about the speech team? I think that pretty much when you say yes to one, how many other people want it? And then my other thought is, what about new opportunities that are out there that show tremendous promise that could be bound into a liberal arts opportunity? What do I do there? I mean, you run the risk of appeasing one and setting off 3 or 4 other areas here. So it's not quite as simple as just an X number of dollar increase to do that. And that's the danger in maybe that line of thinking.
Has the board looked at what they have to charge to make Bethany work?
I appreciate you saying that just now. Where does that logic end for bringing things back? But I would also like to counter where does the logic end for only keeping things that have the most amount of enrollment? Because if we do that, this school is only going to have business and education majors. There's something really to be said about the fact that we can provide for these small minorities that aren't invited by so many other schools.
Right, so we still have some low enrolled majors that are not even talked about. So, yeah. Calculated risk, so we talked about history, talked about theater. There's really, is anybody here in social studies? The social studies majors are education majors that they could get licensed to be social studies teachers. So that's a standards-based licensure. So the ed department is just moving the standards into existing courses so those students can retain. So there aren't any really just social studies majors. And there aren't any American studies majors. So it really came down to history and theater. And theater, we try to keep the wonderful productions, keep the people, budget savings, and of course teaching.
I think, for me, it just hurts to see high quality things. So I would use the word disrespected, because I have spoken to, I'm going to start bringing in specifics, that the theater major is high quality, and yes, it doesn't have very many people, but the quality it produces is high. Whereas I know, and I'm not saying that this specific major needs any action or anything, but I have heard so many things about the nursing major from other nursing majors that quality isn't there. And they also have a small pool. And so it baffles me that when there's so many options of majors with small pools, one of the most reputable and high quality ones is the one that's cut, because that scares me looking down the future of thinking of, future decisions. If high quality and hard work and respect amongst the community are not what's prioritized and valued, what is?
Yeah. I'll address nursing. Over the last year, was it looked at? Yep. Combined freshman to senior, there are 44 nursing students. Now, remember the freshmen and sophomores, they want to be in nursing, will they ever, make it? But just imagine if you lost 44, if you cut that, you lose 44 students, and that would have a huge tuition impact.
Sure.
So, we need to work on our nursing program? Yeah, so we're trying an investment strategy. There are other things going on as well.
And nursing is not good.
Oh, I know. We had to look at every single one by itself. So, like I said, there's other low enrolled programs, so we had to look at those too. Well, the integration of you need this one for this, and all that kind of stuff comes up. So,
Can I ask, when you look at those majors, when you're comparing them, what kind of factors are you taking into account? Because I know that it's really hard to weigh and measure the intangible things if you are not like actively participating in them, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping to assume that that is something that's coming into account, but
There's a long list of criteria. Enrollment trends over the past 10 years. Financial analysis of the programs each year and how that's going. We have a report with the number of confessional Lutheran students in each major. We looked at things like how much we had a consultant work with Dr. Lowry to look at out there, okay? Out there in society, what is the growth potential for this major versus if you didn't have it, how much do you lose? Like, how many kids would quit if you cut it? That's what as well. There are more things we looked
I
at.
got one, Gene. Mission essentiality.
There you go.
That is not something a consultant can provide you.
Yeah, we looked at that for every
But
major.
that's one we hope you trust that the discerning people around the table take in a very serious account. It's there, it's mission essentiality, because maybe I think that's what you're asking.
yeah, I am.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I used to trust that. I
Yeah.
don't.
So in the end, the board had to weigh between, okay, what is most essential? And they determined that the high-quality productions are extremely essential. So, I mean, we looked at all those kinds of things. I mean, a major without the productions wouldn't work. Many of those. Sorry.
This is a minor question, but what is who all these like the qualifications of the board? Because you said it's volunteers, so they're not getting paid. What pool are they selected from?
The Bethany is owned and operated by the Evangelical Lutheran Synod. So the number one criteria is you have to be a voting member of the congregation of the ELS.
Because I wonder if any of that decision would have changed if the people on the board had a closer connection to Bethany College itself.
Many of them are alumni.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And many, I'll say many of them, they really struggle with the whole liberal arts discussion. That's why they said, Dr. Lowry, we want to see your working definition of the liberal arts. So they struggled with that, big time.
That's what I want to. I want to make sure that they had some knowledge. It wasn't just a faceless
Yeah.
board of people.
So then there's,
Okay.
yeah, so voting member of the ELS, member of an active member of an ELS congregation, and then some have to be clergy, some have to be lay, a few slots can be either. Some are up for Senate election every 3 years, most of them. 3 of them, the board can pick who they want. And so they might say, we need somebody really smart in investments. And then they find somebody, and then they tell the Synod Convention, we want this person because this person will help us here. So there's 3 of those kind. There's 9 elected by the convention. Whoever the convention picks, that's who gets it. And then there are 3 that the board gets to pick.
Thank
So there's a lot that goes into that.
Good. Thank you.
And it's all in the Synod bylaws. So if you want that change, you gotta change the Synod bylaws.
A small addition. Are there term limits? Because,
3 years. Renewable.
Re-election,
yeah,
renewable type?
Yeah, so those ones where the board gets to pick, you're limited to 2 terms, 2 3-year terms. Because the needs of the board may change, right? So, 3 of the 12 positions are limited to 6 years. The other 9, you come up for election every 3, but you can get reelected every 3 years.
So there's no, like, whole of 3 terms you can do.
You can do it a long time if they keep electing you.
I'm just a little worried about that because my church has a very similar covenant and rules on that. And the current people in there, we can't elect out
Oh,
because they've got support and they're not doing their job. So
Okay.
we're gone from like a
Yeah.
300 people congregation to like 100.
Okay, so this one, you have to stand before the election, for the convention, and get reelected every 3 years. And I've seen board members not get reelected. Okay, that happens.
Probably been 5 or 6 in the last 10 years.
Yeah, so as right now, there's been some turnover. I got a few retiring who've been on the board for a while, and they're now saying, you know what, I'm getting too old for this. So when it's their turn to get up for reelection, they're saying, I decline to run.
Just so you understand too, the president of the college answers to the board. They're over him.
They're my boss.
Yeah, they're his boss. And the synod is the boss of the board. They pick the board. So ultimately, the synod oversees the board oversees the president has a cabinet, that's us, that's all.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to put in the letter that the U.S. Convention told us we gotta get our act together. So, okay. How about one more?
When considering the tenability of majors, what to cut, what to promote, considering enrollment trends over the past 10 years, as you said, and I understand this is going to be something like a gross simplification, and it probably is, but all things considered, would it be fair to say that the main factor in deciding which majors to expand and which to cut is how effectively it gets you a job after graduation?
No.
Okay.
No, you are going exactly as I thought you were gonna go when you said we looked at the enrollments and all the programs over 10 years' time. Some programs have, like I mentioned, studio art, graphic design, and media arts. Woo! Those are really growing. And then we looked at, like I mentioned, McPherson gave Dr. Lowry and I, here's my list. I've been monitoring the number of majors in history since 2005, and it's... So we looked at all those kinds of things. That's where I thought you were going. And so yes, did you look at that? Yes, trends over time. We know what kind of job you can get. I have all kinds of articles in my office. Here's the weird thing. Society is saying, don't be a liberal arts major, there's no future, right? I have tons of data in my office that refutes that. Statistical data that says you can get a great job someday. Great if you don't know, pay. There's well-paying jobs for liberal arts majors. So that was not looked at all.
Just to add to that, I can speak from experience. People who went to my college got jobs totally unrelated to their majors because they knew that we had liberal arts education and they valued that.
All right, so it's been about 2 some hours, so you guys should get some other.
Thank you for staying.
Yeah, I appreciate it.